Well, 25 of us returned from the Costa Rica mission trip just a couple days ago, and we had a great experience. Our goal today is to share that experience with you and specifically share what we did on the trip and how we saw God in the various locations and in the various people we got a chance to see. 5 people, they're seated up here today. They're going to share their experiences on the trip, and it won't stop at that. When you get your newsletter for the month of August coming around the corner in a couple of weeks, you'll get to read another one of our students' reflections. Jake Patterson, he has the spiritual gift of writing, a great writer, and he's going to write out his reflections, so you get a chance to catch up with that when you get your newsletter. And then there's the missions banquet coming around the corner at the end of August. So last but not least, outside the wall, when you leave the church and you hang a right, there's a lot of pictures up there. And those are pictures from the mission trip, so you can see kind of exactly what we were doing. Words say a lot, but sometimes the pictures really put the icing on the top of the cake. Enough for me. Let's hear from these guys. The first person that's going to share her experiences from this trip is Rachel Woolley. So Rachel, tell us about our trip.
Good morning. I'm just going to go over an overview of kind of what we did, and then I'm going to start talking about how I saw God's presence. We started out, we left like 2 hours late from Atlanta, and so we got in really late to San Jose. We stayed there. Then the next day we went to the orphanage, which Mark's going to talk about his experience with that. And one of the things that I want to say about the orphanage is the orphanage may be one of my favorite places in the whole entire world. On my mission trip to Africa, I felt the same exact way. I don't know, it just, it really touches my heart, and it was probably one of the most eye-opening experiences for me. But the next day we went to Sarapiquí, and we stayed in Selva Verde Lodge, which was really cool because it was in the middle of the jungle, and it was in like tree houses. So that was really cool. But the only bad thing is that they told us late at night that there were lots of poisonous snakes and frogs and wild animals. And one day we saw this huge lizard on a tree, and I swear it was some kind of piranha or something, I promise you. But, and then it disappeared the next day, so I was like, it's out there somewhere. But it was really, really neat, and that was fun. So then we started a project. We built a building for them, and it's going to be a teacher center. And then we also moved stuff out and made them a library in one of their empty rooms. And we painted and made murals. And it was really cool because we made a Bible verse. And then we also put Cristo Te Amo, which means Jesus loves you. And we put it in our handprints around in a heart. And so it was really neat because we left our handprints there. And so that was kind of a cool thing. And we stayed there for 3 or 4 days. And that was really hard work, and I'll explain that in a minute. And then the last day, we went back to the orphanage, but in between that time, we kind of had time to relax and stuff because the days we were working on that building, we were all really tired and sore, so it was kind of nice. We went to a waterfall, and then we went zip lining, and then we went to the base of a volcano, so that was really neat. PC asked us to talk about how we saw God's presence there, and I'm just going to name a few because there are so many that I don't even know where to start. But I'm going to talk about the orphanage first because that was my favorite place. The last day, the headmaster or headmistress, I don't really know what you would call that. She's a girl. But she let us take like 6 or 7 of us, and she let us see the babies. And the babies don't get played with a lot because they don't like a lot of people going in and touching them, probably because of their immune systems and all that stuff. I'm not really sure. But that was really, really, really neat. And the most exciting part about it was that the woman that was in charge, you could just see she was just radiating love for the little babies and for all the kids. And when you go somewhere like that, to an orphanage with so many kids, that's so hard to find because there's just so many of them. She knew all their names. She knew how old they were. They were from 1 month old to 9 months old. She knew everything about them. She played with all of them. She loved every single one of those kids. And so that was kind of nice because you left with a peace of heart, or at peace with your heart, because you knew that they were being loved and being taken care of. So that was kind of one of the experiences I saw God working. And then another one is when we were doing the buildings, I was on the construction team, which I would just like to tell all the husbands that there are like 4 or 5 girls on that team, and you better not underestimate your wives because we're pretty strong. So, but there were 2 people that were with us, and they didn't speak English, and their names were Jose and Martine, and Jose was a pastor, and then Martine was a construction worker. And when we were there, God was radiating through them because they had the most patience in the world with us, because it was probably like I don't know, I would say like 15 by 15, but I'm not very good with my construction words. But so we had to make it all level, the ground, so we could put the cement in, and we were all like sticking our shovels in there, trying to get like the motions going. And Martine came over there, and he pretty much did the whole floor because in a matter of 5 minutes, and it had taken us like 2 hours. So they were just so fun and loving and understanding and so patient with us. So God definitely worked through them. And then the last day, Jose came over and we circled around, and he thanked us, and he was using a translator, and he was saying, from the bottom of my heart, I thank you so much. My 2 daughters go to this school, and it's so nice to know that people can come here, and they're going to be so excited to come back to this place, and I can't wait to see them. And so from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. And you could tell that it just meant so much to him that we had taken our time to go help his school where his kids went in his small country. So that was a really special moment. And another moment that really, really sticks out is after we were done with the school, some of us, it was kind of hard because you really want to see the kids go there, and you want to see their expressions and see them come and have huge smiles on their faces for all the work you did. And it's really hard when you don't really get to be there to see that. But the last day we were coming home from the school, and actually Susan Wilbanks was like, oh my gosh, look over there. And to the right side, there were kids, like 25 kids running up the hill, screaming and waving at us, and had huge smiles on their faces. And they may or not have gone to that school. We don't know, but I feel like God gave us exactly what we needed to see at that moment. So that was really fulfilling. And the last moment I'm going to talk about is we had a tour guide named Fabian, and he was absolutely wonderful. And the last day, we had gone to a local church service, and we didn't know anything that they were talking about. I got corazon means heart, and Christo means Jesus. And we heard those a lot, but that's about all I understood. And my dad had to go to the bathroom, and Fabian was out there, and he was talking to him. Oh, sorry, Dad. And so anyways, Fabian had asked him, he was like, are you a practicing Christian? And my dad said, well, yeah. And he said, are you? And he was like, well, I'm Catholic, but I'm not a practicing Christian. And Fabian had kind of lost his faith along the way, and didn't really, I guess, believe anymore. And the last day that we were with him, he had said thank you to us, and he had said God 3 times in there, and he had told my dad that our group that had gone with him had really changed him and had really opened his eyes. So I thought it was really neat that not only did we affect the people that we went there to affect, but we also affected our tour guide and made him possibly renew his faith and find God again. So I thought that that was really cool. And I just want to thank all of you guys that you guys helped us and supported us, because there's no way any of the 25 of us could have gone without each and every single one of you. So thank you so much. And I want to especially thank you because I got to watch my whole entire family go. And my 2 brothers and my dad hadn't gone on a mission trip before. And to hear them talk and open up during the nighttime worships, I can't thank you enough for that. It was truly, it was a really neat experience, and I thank every single one of you. So thank you.
The next person to give his mission trip testimony is one of our lifeguards. He's jumped on board and he's served the youth group as a leader for 1 year, and he joined us on the mission trip as well. At this time, I'm going to allow Frank to come on up and share his reflections on the mission trip.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Frank. Okay, so I'm going to start off by saying that every morning and every night during the trip, as soon as we got there, even the night we came in, I don't know, it was like midnight here, 10 o'clock there, we had a devotional. And every morning we had a devotional, and Pastor Chris would always just teach us something like to look out for that day. Like a big theme of the week was being a servant, and that's mission trip, so you're going to serve. But a sub-theme that we learned one night while we were learning about the fruit of the Spirit was patience. And we needed a lot of patience on this trip, especially with 25 people being together for 10 days. There was a lack of patience near the end. But anyway, while we were working at the school on the the first day we were working at the school, and we were just doing, I was on the construction, helping build the building. I don't know if you guys saw the pictures out there. You can just look after. But like Rachel said, we were with Jose and Martine, and they spoke no English, barely any English, very limited. And we had translators, but they weren't always there. And like Rachel said, it took a lot of patience for them to do what they did for us, because they could have done it easily, finished the entire building in a couple days. And we were just there, and we put up walls, and we put up columns, and we laid the concrete, and it was awesome that they had the patience for that. So that's one place where I saw God. Another place is it was the last day we were at the school when we were there were many projects going on in the school, like murals and painting and digging the ditch, and there's pictures out there. We did a prayer walk, and at the end of the prayer walk, we circled up in the yard, and we were all standing there, even Jose and Martine. And after we had got done praying our final prayer and getting ready to leave, I went up to Jose. Jose was the pastor. I went up to him and I was like, thank you for letting us do this. It was awesome. I hope we can see you sometime, maybe contact, email, whatever. And I went in for a high five, and he was like, God bless you, man. And he said that in English. And that was, I don't know if that's the only English he knows. I doubt it, because he's a grown man. But that was really cool to me for a guy from another country, a pastor, just come up to me and say, God bless you. I felt like I actually had made a difference for him. And another place where I saw God, this was at the orphanage, actually. There was a 17-year-old kid there, and as soon as we got there, we all started playing soccer. And this kid, I don't know if I was his favorite. I'd like to say I was. But, he always just hung around me. And his name was Gerson. He added me on Facebook. So, I thought he was really cool. And all of the rest of the kids, I know everyone else in our group had a great time at the orphanage the first time, especially the first time we went, because there was just so much love. And all the kids, they were so happy. Even when they knew we were going to be leaving in an hour, they were just so excited and happy, and they wanted to play the entire time. And I thought it was amazing for kids that don't really have people there to love them full time, except for I don't know if they were nuns, mission people, I don't know. But yeah, that was awesome. Those kids really showed us a lot of love. And then the last place I saw God was actually on the plane ride home. I was sitting next to a woman from Zimbabwe, and she's on a 6-year mission right now, and she started a school or an orphanage in Zimbabwe in one of her towns that she grew up in, and she has 150 kids living with her and 6 other people that volunteer at that mission. And she just pulled out a pen ripped a piece of paper out of my journal and like gave me her email address, gave me her website information, and she was like, I really want people from America to start volunteering at my orphanage. And I was like, you know, I just got done with the mission, and that sounds awesome if I had the time, and like I'm going to look into it. That was just really cool that she had just met me and she wants me to do this. Like, I thought that was awesome. And I just want to end with, you know, we couldn't have done this. We couldn't have sent 25 people to Costa Rica to do this work for God without the support and the donations from you guys. So, thanks.
We're going to bring up one more person at this time, and she's going to share her reflections on the mission trip. She worked on a couple different locations than Frank and Rachel, so you'll hear a bit of a different flavor in her story. I'm going to bring up Caitlin, and she's going to share her experiences on the mission trip.
So, if you remember, I was up here about 2 weeks ago telling you about camp. And if you were listening, which if you weren't, that's totally okay. But I talked a lot about expectations. And I thought I had it down pretty well, but apparently not, because I just got everything flipped upside down again. So God's funny in certain ways. But I have a tendency to decide how something is going to play out, and then just get really confused when it doesn't. But one of the things I've learned recently is that God can do good things, and they're usually in ways that surprise me. First off, when I think mission trip, I think Haiti or Honduras or the Congo or Zimbabwe. I don't really go for Costa Rica. Part of that being because we had kids from Costa Rica living with us. I had a girl from Costa Rica live with me for 3 weeks. And they were Nike and Hollister, and they go buy things, and they have iPods and cell phones. And I just wasn't really seeing what exactly it was that we were going to be able to do here, because they didn't seem that off, honestly. Another thing that I thought about mission trips was that it would be a really deep conversation with people about my faith in God and how He's impacted me. Now, if you know my Spanish teacher or have talked to them, you may realize that I may be overestimating my Spanish-speaking ability slightly in that hope. And so I'm not really sure what my plan was, but that didn't happen either. But also, when we got there, you think Costa Rica and you think nice and warm and tropical, and it's cold. Now, not everyone will agree with me, because they all know that throughout the entire trip I was always cold and I was always hungry, because I'm a really picky eater. But except for about 20 minutes in the day, I was usually cold, which was completely unexpected, although probably good, because I was worried about getting too hot. And then, just in general, every step along the way, there was something that I didn't expect. We ended up going to a church service in the middle of it, which was awesome, by the way. I'll tell you more about it if you want. But one thing that really got me there was we're just sitting and watching, and they have people dancing and all sorts of things. We're like, oh, this is cool. Granted, it didn't sound like it didn't sound like Spanish music. It was pretty much camp, but I was like, okay. And then all of a sudden, they play the song How He Loves, which is a camp song, and I know enough Spanish to know they were singing the exact same words. So we're all sitting back there singing How He Loves Us with these people in Spanish, which was completely unexpected and really exciting. But when it comes to the work we did, probably one of my favorite parts was the orphanage, which for obvious reasons. But what I really loved was that when you think orphanage, you think poor children, and they're sad, and they never get hugged, and they don't know what love is like. But you have never seen the most well-behaved group of kids. Like, they didn't fight. They didn't hurt each other. I don't think I saw anyone cry the whole time. We actually got to hold some babies, like Rachel said, and they were the happiest little babies I've ever seen, and they didn't cry at all. And the people who worked there, the 3 nuns and then the volunteers that they had, were so incredibly loving. It was more like the kids had already been adopted than like they were abandoned, which was amazing for me to see, because I was starting to realize that it wasn't like we were going to go save people out of the depths of despair. It was more like we were just visiting other people and just showing them that we do care and that we haven't forgotten them. Not necessarily that they needed us to come in, but it was a good thing for them to see that people would come halfway across the world just to be with them. Then when, like he said, on the working, I had a very different experience because I've been around the stage a lot, so I know how to build sets and I know how to work a hammer. And on this trip, I was like, yeah, I'm going to build a wall and going to build a house and it's going to be awesome. But see, I ended up not doing that. I mean, I dug a ditch, which was hard, but after that, I painted. And I didn't even paint anything cool. Like other people did a mural. I painted the inside of a bathroom without enough paint. That was fun. We can get back to that later. But what I mainly did was I painted lines. Now, that seems weird, but at the bottom of the walls, it gets dirty a lot because, I mean, there's dirt everywhere, obviously. And so they would put a strip of color along the bottom of the walls that was darker so that you could not have so much dirt showing all the time. So I painted a red line, and I painted a blue line. And for me, that was not fun because I wanted to build a wall. I wanted to see something go up before me. I wanted to make personal connections. But like I said, God's all about making me see things differently, and I certainly did because I started to realize once I finally finished my wall, which now that I look back on it was something that I actually did use a skill I had because of my experience in the theater. I know how to paint in a straight line, and I can do it neatly, and I cannot get stuff all over the floor and on the ceiling and on myself. Well, I did get it on myself a little bit, but the important things stayed clean. And at the end, I was able to stand back, and I was taking a panoramic picture with my awesome little camera, and I was just looking at everything, and it made me stop and look and see what I really did, because we didn't even finish the one building, and it's true that they probably could have done it better, but what we did do was breathe life back into a tiny little school. I understand the value of education and how important it is to have a good environment to learn in, and it was really cool to look back and say, we made this place happier again. I mean, when you look around at the different buildings and the houses these people lived in, they were tiny little, like you can't really call it a house, a lot of them were shacks, but they all had these pretty colors on them, and it was just sort of bringing light back into sort of a dismal scene, and that was really cool for me. But anyways, another thing that I realized was as we were going back to the orphanage, people kept saying, this is our last chance to do something here. This is our last chance to serve. And I couldn't formulate what exactly was wrong with that while we were there, but since then I've thought about it a little bit more. And I'm thinking that we've spent the whole time learning about how to be servants. Like we've talked about how you need to be doing every task with equal dedication, which I learned a lot about, even the ones that you don't feel are as important. But what's also important is that it's a process, not an event, to grow in God, and it is a process to serve, and that we should be serving in everything we do. So while we're talking about what we did, I want to remind you all to think about what you can do, because as you're serving, you also need to be served. And as we went to go help those other people, we also had to ask you all for money, which I don't know about everybody, but I don't like doing that. And you guys made it so easy because you just served us and were very free with what you were able to give. But also make sure you're looking at everything else that you can do, because serving is not just going to a foreign country. I mean, it was really important to them that we came to them and wanted to do something, but it's going to mean just as much if you bake a meal for the neighbor down the street, or you smile at someone, or you paint fire hydrants in town. It's not just going somewhere far away. That's one of the things that completely shattered in what I knew, is because I thought I was going to go somewhere and it was going to be awesome and it was going to change my life. But what I didn't think about, the fact, was all the opportunities that I may have been missing here. Because they let us serve in all actuality. They let us come in and feel like we were doing something good, but maybe we should be doing it a little more here too. So thank you for sending us and helping us to learn this, but also keep in mind what you can be learning as well. Thanks.
Person to share her thoughts on the mission trip is Laura Beth. So Laura, will you come on up and share us your thoughts and reflections on the mission trip?
Good morning. So I had to write what I was going to say down because I'm a really nervous public speaker. So I thought winging it might be bad, and I apologize if I'm looking down a lot. But when Pastor Chris asked me if I would speak this morning, I honestly didn't really know what I was going to say. Not because I had nothing to tell, and not because I didn't want to tell anything, only because I don't know that there are words to fully describe what the past 10 days have been like for us on this mission trip to Costa Rica. So I'm just going to try my best and hope that you all can catch a glimpse of the abundance of God's love that we were able to share and take part in while we were away. It was an experience that I will never forget, and one that I will never be able to repay all of the people who helped support us in going on this. I want to thank everyone so much for all of the thoughts, prayers, support, and donations that we have received throughout the past year. Without you, this mission would not have been possible, and we wouldn't have been able to accomplish half of what we did. To start with, I want to tell you a little bit about our tour guide. His name was Fabian, and he was probably one of the funniest, nicest, and happiest people I have ever had the pleasure of meeting in my life. Fabian was with us from the very beginning to the very end. He picked us up from the airport, and he dropped us off at the end. He is from Costa Rica and was therefore able to tell us and show us some very interesting things about the country. He always kept us on our toes. But he really helped us out a lot throughout our trip, more than I think any of us actually realized. He was there to help translate all of the Spanish that none of us had a clue as to what was actually being said to us, and he was always so patient with us about it because some of the questions we would ask him would be some of the most basic Spanish that probably anyone should know. And on top of that, he usually had to repeat himself a good 15 times because everyone else would go right back up to him and ask him the exact same thing. But he was always smiling and laughing with us through it all, never actually getting mad or annoyed. And though it was nowhere in his job description, there was more than one occasion where I saw him helping us with whatever project we were working on at the time and putting his full effort into it. When we were working at the children's school in Sarapiqui, one of the projects we had was to add on a new part to a building, which was originally supposed to be a library, but was later decided to be a storage area for the teachers, I believe. And for this project, we had 2 construction men leading us through the process and helping us, guiding us what to do. And you've heard a little bit about them. Their names were Jose and Martin. And Jose and Martin helped us accomplish putting up the walls to the building and also putting in the concrete floor. This job, along with digging a trench for water drainage because it rains 4 days in Costa Rica, were without a doubt 2 of the hardest jobs that I have ever had to do. If you talk to anyone on this trip, I was sweating a very disgusting amount in like 10 minutes, but it definitely took more muscle than I think any of the group actually possessed, but we stuck through and got the job done. But I would just have to say that I think for all of us, the best part was probably when Jose and Martin would step in and show us what we were supposed to be doing, and they would get the job that we just spent 45 minutes doing done in under 10, I'm pretty sure. They showed us up every single time without fail. And they had to have some serious patience with us because we were lacking in some serious skill that was required for the job. But they were definitely so sweet and funny, always laughing and smiling and cracking jokes with us. One of the coolest parts about working with those guys was the fact that Jose was actually the pastor of the school. And not only that, but his daughters attended that very school we had put our hard labor, sweat, and love into. It's a big enough feeling of serving and accomplishment when you know that all those children are going to come back for school and see all that is new. The 2 murals, the painted walls, the new library, the Bible verse painted on the wall, the new building, the heart with all of our handprints around it. You can just imagine their excitement and joy in having something new and redone just for them, and that is gratification enough. But when you're actually working with the dad of a couple kids who attend the school, and you can see how all of our efforts and hard work really affected even just him alone, it really hits home. On our last day at the school, we decided to have a prayer walk and to go to each new addition and say a prayer over it, thanking God for the opportunity to do such a thing and to keep safety over it and to let the children know how much we love them and, more importantly, how much God does. And at the very end, we all stood in a circle and said a big prayer together, and then our work leader stood and translated for Jose as he showed his complete gratitude and love toward us for all that we had done throughout the week. I will never forget the overwhelming feeling of joy, appreciation, blessedness, and most of all, God's love that I felt in that moment. Jose showed me, and I know many others in the group, a kind of appreciation that I have never felt before. It was a heartfelt and bittersweet moment leaving that place and knowing that we may never see it or those people again, but knowing that we had left so much of ourselves in that place and that we had left something for those children and those parents and for that community. We had shared with them some of God's love, and that in and of itself is a blessing that neither I nor anyone else would take back or change in any way. On our trip, we had devotions every morning after breakfast and also every night after dinner. During one of our devotions, Pastor Chris had us write down 3 different Bible verses, and then we sat and discussed them and how they had importance in what we were doing and how we were to act as servants of God. The one that really stuck out to me that night was Ephesians 6:7. It says, "Serve wholeheartedly as if you were serving the Lord, not men." And as I heard this verse, my mind immediately took it to another. It was James 1:27. James 1:27 states, "Religion that God our Father accepts as pure and faultless is this, to look after orphans and widows in their distress, and to keep oneself from being polluted by the world." My mind took it straight to this because I had just read the verse the day before, and the description of the verse was saying that how in the case of the orphans and the widows, when we serve them, we have no expectations of getting anything in return because they have nothing to give us. The point being that this is how we should serve the Lord all the time. When we give with no hope of receiving in return, we show what it truly means to serve others. I thought this was a really good verse to guide us through not only the week and the mission we were a part of, but also continuously through the rest of our lives. I cannot ever begin to fully explain how much this opportunity meant to me and what a life-changing experience that it was. I know that I was blessed before I left, but you never know just how truly blessed you are until you leave and see how other people live with so much less than what we have. They were living in the most humid conditions I had ever experienced, with houses smaller than some of our own living rooms. And they were sending their children to schools or orphanages that were nowhere the type of school that we think of in our lives. One of the bigger things we noticed throughout the trip was how barred up everything was. Houses, windows, schools, doors, everything had bars in front of it. But to the people of Costa Rica, that is absolutely normal. And even living with such little in their lives, I would have to say, honestly, that they were some of the happiest, genuine, and sincere, loving people that I have ever been around. There wasn't a person that would walk by without looking up and smiling or just saying hello. I don't think I can say that I have ever felt more of God's love in one place before this. I cannot thank you enough as a church and as my church family for giving us all the opportunity to be part of such a great experience and to be able to go out and make a change and a difference in the world. Without all of you, it would not have been possible. So from the bottom of my heart, from myself and our entire group, I thank you so much for everything that you have done for us and your love and support throughout the last year.
Our last reflection is going to come from one of our youngest people that went on this experience. Mark, would you come on up and share your thoughts?
Morning, everybody. So when Pastor Chris asked me to talk to the church and everyone about my experiences in Costa Rica and how I felt about it, what really experience stuck out above me, I would love to say, that one instance in my mind stuck out head and shoulders above the rest, and I knew for a fact that's what I was going to be talking on. It happens for some people, but didn't quite happen for me this time. In fact, I really had to think about it. But me, unfortunately, being the procrastinator that I am, we got back Thursday night or Friday morning, whichever you want to say, since it was about 2. I'm just kind of thinking Friday goes by, Saturday goes by, and I still have not 100% decided on what I want to say. And so I turned to this kind of devotional that we did every morning and every night, just kind of flipping through the pages. And one thing that stuck out to me a lot was how much the theme love kept reappearing. We wrote down 2 verses, John 15:17. This is my command, love each other. And then John 15:12 also says, my command is love each other as I have loved you. And then also we were talking about, the fruit of the Spirit, love, joy, peace, patience, and all the rest. But it just seemed like love was just this reoccurring theme. Wherever I looked, there was just always love. And so I thought I'd try to pick a topic on that. And so I'm thinking back in my mind over the mission trip. What was an experience that I had where I really loved somebody, where I went out of my way to love them and show them that I cared for them and kind of make a difference in them? And the more I thought about it, the more I prayed about it, the more I kind of realized I was approaching it from the wrong angle. There was a huge experience with love that made a big difference in my life, and I'd like to hopefully say the other person's life. But I realized it was them kind of loving me, and God kind of moving in the whole situation to make it happen the way it did. It's kind of when we went to the orphanage, and we saw those kids, and it was kind of hard for me at first. It was the first day. We were just getting warmed up into the mission trip. Didn't really know how to act, what to say. And then there was that, eternal language barrier between us and them. You can't understand each other. How do you communicate? How do you make a difference with someone you can't even hardly talk to? And so I just kind of sitting back. They had like a little stage about waist high. I was kind of leaning on that stage, watching everything, just kind of praying this. Really prayed, God, you may not use me here in this orphanage. Of course I pray that you do. But, God, I just pray that you use me throughout the mission trip as much as possible, Lord, and then you can help me eventually overcome that language barrier. I had my expectations set low. I really didn't think I was going to make a difference at all. And, like Caitlin said, for those expectations, thankfully God just blew them away. And so this little 5-year-old kid, he comes up from behind me, walking on the stage, taps me on the shoulder, and I just kind of pick him up, and I go to lay him back down on the ground because I thought, he just wanted down. And the kid just latches onto me. He just kind of he just sits there, and he's just loving on me so much. And, since he was so young, I could, I remember my dad lifted me up in the air, so I just kind of lift him up in the air and put him on my shoulders, and just had a good time with this kid. And he was just only 5 years old, so he didn't even hardly talk. That language barrier that was here was just completely blown away. I was able to love this kid, but also he really just loved me so much. He made me feel great, and he just always had a smile on his face. And it made me think about how much this church has loved us. And like everyone said, we would not have gone on this mission trip if we didn't have such a wonderful, giving, loving congregation. And that one little boy made a huge difference in my life, and really, I think, changed the mission trip for me. And, like Caitlin said, she hopes that we can all kind of serve at the mission trip, but also at home. I pray that we can kind of do the same thing, but with love. We can, love God, but then also, really, I think we'll be surprised at how much God loves us back, and how much He blows us away. And that, that cycle, that kid loved me through God, and then I loved him, and it just kind of, it was this awesome spiral towards God and praising Him. And I just pray that we can all, take that first step, just like this church did with starting the mission trip, like that kid did, making a difference in my day. And hopefully if we can all do that, then, we'll have a lot better world eventually. I just really want to thank the whole church. Thank you so much. Again, we couldn't have done it without you, and I thank you so much.